Welcome, welcome. So today I figured would make something a little bit different. Did a few Asian things, so now we're gonna do something a little bit more Tex-Mex. We're gonna be making a pico de gallo. Starting here with this jalapeno, and I recommend if you are not used to a lot of spice, or if you aren't going to be taking a shower anytime soon, you wear gloves when you do this, because jalapenos and any chilies really are going to be very irritable if you touch your eyes later, and you will have a bad time. But we're starting here with a jalapeno for our pico, and we're going to cut it as small as we can, because we want like real nice little bites of things to mix together, and it's going to be good. In my case, I'm going to be using it in a fajita probably tomorrow, but it's good on tacos. It's good as its own little dip with chips if you'd like. It's great if you make like a baked potato or a stuffed pepper with Mexican or Tex-Mex spices, and it works really well. So here we have half of our jalapeno, and one thing I've gotten some good feedback about like talking about how to do things. One thing I have to say is when you're watching me chop, I used to work in a kitchen. I'm used to knives, I'm used to big knives, and I'm actually more efficient with a big knife like this than, let's say, a paring knife, something that my wife finds very paradoxical. It takes time to get that skill, and it takes time to be confident enough to be able to be doing this and know that you're not going to slice your finger off. That being said, I have cut myself doing this. And that's another thing you have to realize is sometimes when you're doing something, it's going to take time to learn the skill, but you might actually get hurt along the way. But the key to making that be not as bad as how bad it could be is to not be afraid that it's going to happen, know that it's going to happen, and just be prepared for it. And then it'll be worse, or it'll be better than if you were afraid of it, or if you didn't know it was going to happen, because fear is what causes a lot of the injuries. It causes you to freeze, you don't know what to do. So next, as you can see, we have some scallions, some green onions that we're going to cut real thin as well. These ones are some of the biggest scallions I have ever seen in my life, so they're being very difficult. But that can happen. Sometimes you just got to adapt, overcome, and move forward. And we're only going to be using the greens for this. I know in my fried rice recipe, I talked about using the whites and the greens for everything, but we're going to save these whites for something else, because they can always be used for making something like fried rice, or making some, backs of something like pulled pork. I'll use those, and I'll use the whites of something like bok choy. Next, we're going to do some tomatoes. Now, I'm using Campari tomatoes simply because they're the ones I like to eat the most. But generally, you're going to find, like, if you go to a Mexican restaurant or whatever, they're going to be using something like a Roma tomato or an heirloom tomato. I tend not to be a huge fan of tomatoes, but I like these ones. And you notice how I kind of like paused there while I'm speaking, because tomatoes can sometimes be the thing that are going to cause your knife to slip. They can be very wet and juicy. So you always want to be paying attention. I'm cutting them nice and thick just because my wife always tells me I don't add enough tomato to things. So here we go, doing it this way. The irony being that my sister hates tomatoes, so when I make things for her, I do things a little bit less. But she's 800 miles away and my wife is on her way home, so this is how we're doing this one. Now, one thing I want to do is, if you feel up to it, leave a comment, talk about something you might want to see me do. I know I've had some feedback about, like I said, the skills, and talking about things that are a little bit different. So while I'm doing this, that one's not great. Like I said, I've been around knives, I've been in the kitchen, I can do stuff like this while multitasking. I don't need to just stand here for most of the time. Usually if I pause, it's because either the knife isn't sharp enough and I need to kind of focus on what I'm doing, or simply because I don't know what to say. And I'm a little bit out of breath today from the gym. So, that'll happen too. But like I was saying, this is great for for tacos, for topping on things. And you can even use it as a dip if you wanted, just like with some tortilla chips or some regular chips, as like a healthier alternative to like a creamy dip. This goes great at, you know, cookouts. Put it on a burger, throw it on a hot dog, and make it weird if you'd like. We're not here to judge. We're just here to make some food. I thought one of the dogs was going to make an appearance, but he got mad at me for recording and left. So, sorry, you guys don't get a Jack's appearance. Alright, that's good enough right now. Right there for right now. So next we're going to be adding red onion. So this pico that I'm doing has, as you can tell, has two different types of onion. It has red and green. Very different flavor profiles, very different textures, and offers a nice variety. So when I made the fried rice, I had the onion already chopped just because that's something that has to move fast. So I wanted everything ready. For this one, I'm going to show how to make a good, nice diced onion. Going along the grain of the ribs here. You're going to slice into it a little bit in a few places. And then you're just going to chop down. Make nice, even dices of onion. And it's harder when you get to the edge. If you have enough, you can leave it out. If not, you can fake it like I usually do, because while I do have experience, I am not a professional. I did it for a few years in college, way back before I was even a police officer. Now I'm a software engineer, so can't even really say that I'm out here chefing it up. Just in my house, being weird, talking to myself on camera. People seem to enjoy it, so here we go. And like I said, this is one of those things where people see how fast I'm moving with this, and like my wife, when she's home, she gets really nervous, but like you get used to it. You start to be able to get those skills down, know exactly where everything is at all times, to the point where you can do that without looking at it. And that's what really screws with people. All right, now here, this one's cheating a little bit because I had some fresh chopped cilantro. So I'm going to use some fresh cilantro in here. Obviously, if you have that gene that makes this taste like soap, this is not mandatory, so don't worry about it. So throw that in there. Next, we're going to throw in some garlic powder and black pepper. For this batch, only about like 1/8 of a teaspoon each, just because you just want it to coat a little bit, but you don't want this to taste gritty, because that's going to be very off-putting. You just want it there for the flavor without it tasting like you're, you know, chewing on some beach sand, which can happen if you overspice something like this. Grab a spoon, because I'm not here, and just give it a stir. Usually when I'm stirring it, that's when I realize like, oh, it needs more jalapeno, it needs more onion, or it needs more tomato. I prefer it to be a little bit more green, but this one definitely needs more tomato. So let's do another one. One thing with the knives, if you're going to be chopping something soft like a tomato, you need a really sharp knife so you don't crush it while you're chopping it. As you can see, it just kind of glides right through. I actually sharpened this before I started filming, just in case. You can see even right there, that one crushed a little bit because it's not as sharp as it could be. I rushed a little bit. And that's something that, if people are interested, we can talk about like different angles of knives, different types of knives and what they're supposed to be at. Because it's something that a lot of people don't really know about. I remember when we were doing our wedding registry and we put these knives on there, the salesperson was trying to talk us into self-sharpening knives, and her case was that she never knew what angle it was or how she was supposed to sharpen them herself. So I literally just responded to her with the exact angle, which for a Western or German style knife like this is actually 20 degrees. She was not happy that she didn't get to upsell us when I said that. But here we go. This is a nice Pico de Gallo. It's very fresh. It's going to taste good on anything you put it on. And it's going to make people happy if you bring it with them. Probably going to do some other quick videos on good like cookout sides and stuff like that that you can bring with you to impress your guests or impress family members or whatever. But yeah, that's what we've got for today. Hope everyone enjoys. Go cook something out there and make me proud.